Hey guys, welcome to the broadcast. 888-659-3727. God, that's a little bit of a depressing song, but I guess the truth is that's what the choice is. That's what it does come down to. As hair loss sufferers, there are so many of us out there, so many of especially young guys out there who are kind of like, just wasting your lives, wasting your time, spending every waking moment consumed by your hair loss. And I'm a guy who understands that. I'm a guy who's been doing a hair loss show for almost 17 years. So, I get it. I totally get it. But the truth is, you really do have a choice. And you could either get busy living or get busy dying. And I have chosen to do my best to live my life as a hair loss sufferer. Now, if you're new to the broadcast and you saw this opening, you're like, what the F is this? Well, in short, I am a consumer advocate for men and women dealing with hair loss. I am the author of a few well-known books on the subject and the prevention, the treatment and the prevention of hair loss. The subject and the prevention. It's going to be one of those nights. And I'm a guy who is, like I said, has been dealing with hair loss for a very long time. I'm the founder of the American Hair Loss Association. We've been doing this broadcast for on radio and online for about 17 years. And to tell you the truth, the longer I do this broadcast, the more I realize this broadcast is needed. At first, the first few years of the show, I was doing my thing, broadcasting my message across the country, helping hair loss sufferers. I really felt like obviously we were making an impact. And as the industry started to grow, I thought that, you know what, I'm seeing changes. Things are good. Things are getting better. But it seems like it's every 5 years that there's some new shit happening, some new BS being sold to hair loss sufferers. So the truth is, no matter how hard we work, no matter how much we do, no matter how many millions of people who've been touched by my broadcast and my books and everything that we put out there through our resources, I'm never going to be out of a job. Because somebody is always going out there to sell some crap. And it's not just happening in this country. And I'm bringing this up because I don't know if you guys saw the Ball Truth website yesterday and today, but I posted a clip of a call that I took from a guy, a TBT fan from Romania, who decided to undergo surgical hair restoration. He flew to Turkey, went with one of our IHRS accepted members, Dr. Hakan Dogane. But it's really I'm really happy he chose a good doctor and he had a great hair transplant experience. But it's so fascinating to hear the common thread that we all have, no matter where we live, no matter what our socioeconomic background, no matter what our quote unquote real problems are. Hair loss affects every aspect of our lives. This is a kid from Romania, a kid who asked me if I understood the economic turmoil that was happening in his country, how difficult it was to earn a living, and how much money, he had to save to have a hair transplant. As a matter of fact, this kid told me that, and he's a very lucky kid, that his parents were willing to put money aside for years because he started to lose his hair at a young age for him to eventually have a hair transplant. These are people who are concerned about, in some cases, maybe not in this family's case, but where their next meal is coming from. How they're going to keep a roof over their heads. If they're going to be able to earn a living in the next year. But they still understood how hair loss affected their son, and their kid still understood, was affected so badly that, while he was able to function, he ended up getting an education and doing his thing. He went from a very outgoing person to a very shy person, to a person who really wasn't socializing, to a person who would turn down dates. I mean, women who were interested in him because he felt that he wasn't worthy of their interest just because of his hair loss. Now, I say just because of his hair loss because that's the way society looks at it. Society looks at it as, well, what's the big deal? It's only hair. When you tell people that you're concerned about your hair loss, or when I tell people what I do, if they recognize me, and I said this during this segment, the first thing they do is kind of give me a jab. Kind of like the whole hair loss thing is a joke. Like, what are you selling? I don't understand this. And then I'm being brought into kitchens and into bathrooms at parties and asked to assess people's hair. Asked by the wives of guys who are losing their hair what they can do for their husbands. So I thought that was a really important segment to post. Not only was it an interesting segment, but it really does illustrate how hair loss affects all of us, no matter where we're from, no matter what our backgrounds, no matter what our quote-unquote real problems are. Hair loss sucks. And for those who aren't dealing with it, who can't understand it, well, eventually you probably will. Let me give out the phone number, 888-659-3727. That's 888-659-3727. We're going to go right to the phones today, but I want to talk about this issue at some point. For anyone who's holding on, who may not be calling about this, that's fine. But let's talk about the reality of how hair loss affects our lives. And if you're listening and watching from some other part of the world, and you happen to be up, tuning in through GFQ, the Guys from Queens Network, or through our website, thebaldtruth.com, or through Daily Motion, or through Ustream, or listening on Stitcher Radio or iTunes Radio, or one of the many resources we're on, call us. We'd be really interested to hear how, not only how hair loss has affected your life, but how it's perceived in your culture. 888-659-3727. Let's see who this is. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this, and where are you calling from?
Hey, Spence. It's Tim from Boston.
Tim from Boston, man. How are you? Long time.
Yeah, it's been a little bit. I'm doing well. I'm doing well for the most part.
Well, tell me. I mean, you're calling for a reason, so I hope you're doing well.
Yeah, I think the last time I called, I had mentioned that I started prescription strength minoxidil, and I started to grow my hair out because I wanted to. I'd been shaving my head for a while to a zero, and my dad wanted me to grow it back out just to take a look at it. And as I was sort of growing it out and putting the minoxidil in it, I thought, it looks kind of like diffuse on one side of my head, and I was sort of concerned about it. And then, I went there today, and he kind of told me that I'm, exaggerating the state of my hair.
The extent,
I think it's worse than it actually is.
The extent of your hair loss.
The extent of my hair loss. Exactly,
you think maybe part of that is, listen, you know your own hair. Do you think that maybe part of it is he's trying to be kind? He just doesn't see it as badly, looking as bad as you do, and he's like, okay, maybe it's there to some degree, but maybe my kid is just kind of like, overblowing it. But go ahead.
I think I think it was just sort of like, it was kind of like what you were saying earlier, where it's that sort of perception. I definitely think. And I'm going to continue to grow it out, by the way, just for my dad, because it's really short still, but to get a better look at it. But I think there is this sort of perception that, or people who are actually going through the process, it's not only seems worse physically to them, but it seems worse emotionally.
Right.
It's this sort of.
Well, I don't think it seems worse emotionally. I think it is worse emotionally.
It is worse, exactly.
Yeah.
Or the effect that you see that it has on your own life seems worse to you than it does to the outside world, where it seems less to those who aren't going through it. It's kind of like, have you ever seen Curb Your Enthusiasm?
Of course, sure.
And there's an episode where his Larry David's manager Jeff is about to have surgery,
right?
And they're talking, and the two of them are talking in the hospital, and they're sitting at the food court, and they're being served. And Larry doesn't get as much attention from the waitress as Jeff does.
I remember
Jeff
that episode well. Yeah.
Yeah. And then Jeff, Larry offends the doctor, and he shaves Jeff's head down. And prior to this, Jeff said, if I was losing my hair, I would just shave it off.
Right.
And then the doctor shaves Jeff's hair off, and Jeff flips his lid.
Yeah, devastated.
He's devastated, right. And Larry says, I told you, it's not a big deal until you're going through it. And everybody who doesn't have hair loss says, oh, I would just shave it down.
Right.
And I find that to be so true because, I never really thought, based on my family history that I would lose hair. And I had friends who were losing hair in their teens. I have a couple friends now that are gone. They're just done at 25, no hair.
Yeah, it's all over.
The top of their head. It's totally gone. And I used to say to them, well, guys who go bald, I feel like generally they look good when they go bald. Guys who are meant to go bald look good. But, I think it's just something we say because if we're not going through it, it's not really it's not part of our life. So it's not really...
That's exactly the case. And the truth is, when you question women about it, it's funny. You see stuff online. There's a guy that recently put out a YouTube video, and I guess he's some sort of a European pickup artist, and he's significantly bald. And, he's asking women what they thought, would you date a bald guy? Now, obviously, most women in their minds, unless they are terrible people, they think, well, why not? I of course I would. But the thing is, they don't understand why they may not find somebody attractive. And that reason they may not find that somebody attractive is because of their hair loss. They can't necessarily pinpoint it. But, they look at somebody's face, they look at their overall look. The same person with a full head of hair might be very attractive to them. But that person without their hair may not even have, a chance with them. But women can't seem to, they don't identify that. They don't get it. And that's just the way that it is. We know that as guys. We know that as hair loss sufferers. And I have to tell you that, for any woman out there who's listening who thinks that this is not a devastating issue or thinks that hair loss is not a big deal, I always will ask them, why don't you just shave a divot in your hairline, just like a 1-inch divot, and live that way until it grows out? And of course their answer is, well, I'm a woman, it's different. There's no difference. It may be socially acceptable. It's acceptable by society for guys to walk around without their hair, but it doesn't mean it doesn't change our looks just as much as it would change yours. Right.
And I was explaining that to my father who, he actually took a scalp biopsy to see how bad the miniaturization was a couple days ago. And then we had a discussion afterwards about why it bothered me so much. So I've had a career now I'm going to be 26 in September. And I've had actually a couple different careers. And I'm going back to school, and which is for him is a huge deal because he thinks that it's helping me, keep my mind off of this consuming issue.
Right.
And but he was telling me, at some point, you just have to kind of move on, and it's so hard to do. It's so hard to say, you just move on. And I was explaining to him, because he has a full head of hair. I said, would you just shave your head and walk out? And he said, no, I wouldn't do it because I feel I look better with my hair.
Right. Right. But he has the choice, and that's what kills us. So how he can't, and I know he's obviously been very kind about it. He's been trying to help you with it, and he's just trying to give you the best advice that he can because, frankly, it's kind of like, it's like losing, I hate to compare it to losing a limb, but I mean, if someone loses a limb, you got to say, well, you know what, you got to move on. This is what it is. Right. This is all, that's the only advice they can give you. But, you should ask your dad, besides just shaving your head and going out, just ask him to shave a quarter of an inch of his hairline. Not even that much. and see if he would feel comfortable doing that and living his life and going into his practice every day and dealing with people and, ordering food in a restaurant, all the things that we have to do as hair loss sufferers. Listen, I paint my head. I went to a restaurant, a steakhouse that we like a lot, and there happened to be a TBT fan that is a server there. And he knows me well. I've been there, many times, and he's taken great care of us. But I always, I laugh about it. I'm like, dude, you're looking at the top of my head. Don't say you're not. You're looking at my head. And he laughs, he says that he doesn't. But, the truth is, this is how we have to live our lives. I worry about overhead lighting because I paint my head. It's something that people like your dad can never, they just can't comprehend, no matter how hard they try. But you also can't blame them.
No, yeah, because like I was saying before, I wouldn't say that I was, I'm an early hair loss sufferer, but I'm certainly not somebody who was started losing my hair in high school. But, back to my friends who were, and to me at the time, it seemed like something I probably wouldn't have to deal with. It was hard. It didn't bother me so much that they were going bald, but, it's hard for me to imagine what that must have been like. I must say, though, that, some people deal with it better than others. Some people...
They do, and these are the winners when it comes to, I say these are the guys who've won the lottery as hair loss sufferers. And I know a few of them who really do deal extremely well. A couple of them are brothers, and a couple of them are just these guys who decided to hit the gym early on. They happen to have a very rugged-looking, strong jawline, and really manly features, like heavy brows and stuff like that. Where I always say, even though I'm 49, I wear facial hair. I still have boyish features to some degree. I would look like Kane from Kung Fu. I would look like a guy from the future. And I use that same line over and over again. It just wouldn't work for me, in my view.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough if you don't have. It's hard to. I think it's easier for me to shave my head because I'm fortunate in that I have some of those features. I have some of those features for sure. So, I have a friend I have a roommate actually who's kind of going through the problem, and I was trying to convince him to just shave his head down. That it kind of takes your mind off of it. And I got an earful about it's some guys it works for and others it doesn't. And he's absolutely right. He's right. And it's hard, if you don't have a, thick eyebrows, it's really hard to...
It is hard. I'm fortunate enough that I have a pretty good chin and I have a decently structured nose and stuff like that. So worst came to worst, it probably wouldn't be the absolute end of the world, but I know that I wouldn't feel as good and I certainly wouldn't look as good. And I might be able to figure out a way to become, make it passable. Maybe I would get some crazy tattoo on my head. I don't know. I would do something, but I would find a way to live my life, whether it's, gluing hair on or getting a hair transplant or whatever it takes. I decided that a long time ago that I'm no longer going to really suffer about it. And that's why I do the paint job and everything that I do.
But do you think that sort of, that realization, did that happen almost immediately or did it take, I think that's my question is, do you get more comfortable as time goes on? I mean, it just
here's the thing about you, and then I'm going to take some more calls. But you have been able to live your life with a shaved head. You've already expressed that you have the features. You're good looking enough. You have those strong brow, strong jawline to kind of pull off the shaved look. You probably have a good shaved head. It may not make you feel your best, but you're able to get away with it. And obviously, I think you told me that you still attract women that way.
Yeah, I went on a date. Yeah, I went on a date with somebody with a complete. I had that day just shaved my head. She didn't seem to say anything. But I mean, that's the other thing that's hard to explain to to people who are close to you. When you're losing your hair, is to my dad, it's not only the perception. The trouble with accepting it is not only the perception of what other people think, but also, your own perception and what you see in the mirror. That's the difficult thing, and in your own idea of who you are versus what you see. You know what I mean?
That's right. And it's really your self-perception that gets you through your life. It's how you feel internally about everything. We make
Yeah.
our own happiness. And if we're not feeling good about ourselves, and if we're looking in the mirror and just, feeling uncomfortable in our own skin, that affects every aspect of our lives, whether or not it's real. And that's the thing. That's why sometimes there's a fine line between body dysmorphic disorder and, and guys who are really suffering from a true lack of what's the word I'm looking for? I was going to say lack of aesthetics, but having a less attractive appearance because of their hair loss. There are some guys where it doesn't make that much of a difference. It really doesn't. They're few and far between, though. They really are.
I'm not saying, but when I tell you that I can kind of pull it off, that's what I mean by this. I can pull it off. I can do it without totally not looking good at all. But I certainly, and I think 99% of people, probably everybody looks better with hair. I mean, I could think of very few people who don't. But
well, listen, I think that you are probably a guy who is in a much better position than most other sufferers out there. You're one of the guys. Now you're dealing with the psychological impact of it.
Absolutely, yeah.
But as far as being able to live your life, I really believe, just based on what you're telling me, I've never seen what you look like. For all I know, you can send me a picture of yourself, and I can be like, "Oh, dude, man, you really need hair." But according to you, you're able to pull it off.
I can send a picture. I should send a picture. I should get an opinion before I, continually shave my head off. But
yeah, well, I'll let you know, dude. I'll be honest with you. I'll tell you, all right, maybe you should be worried.
How would I do that? How would I go about doing that?
You can just send it through the website. There's an email address on thebaldtruth.com.
Okay, I'll send it. I'll send it tonight. How about that?
That's fine, and I promise you, it's not gonna it's not gonna be on my Facebook page or anything. But
That's all right.
I just think that you're in a good position. You have family who is in medicine. You're able to get your scripts. You're able to do what you need to do to try to maintain what you have. You've already lived your life to some degree with a shaved head. You really sound like you got your act together. But, we all have our crosses to bear. This is yours, and you still haven't gotten to the point where you've been able to fully accept it. You know that I can never fully accept it. I've accepted the fact that I'm going to pull a cover up for the rest of my life. That's my acceptance. And to me, that's kind of freeing, even to admit that to the world, that I do that. The truth is, I'm around beautiful women all the time. I go to these functions and whatever. It doesn't matter. Once they know what I do, or I even joke about painting my bald spot. It's almost like, initially some may look mortified because they don't really understand it. But once you explain it, it's like it doesn't even exist.
Yeah.
They're not looking at my hair. They're looking at my eyes, and they're laughing at my jokes, and they're enjoying my company.
And I think,
go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say that's the last point I wanted to make before I leave. It's just, the women I work with, there's a lot of women, or not even just the women I come across throughout, my time. It's just, they're not, I find I find a lot of them attractive. They're not necessarily perfect people either.
Yeah.
And I see the whatever the perceived flaws, or whatever the perception of what's ideal, and they might not have every detail. And I don't.
Let me tell you, in the end, I'm telling you, it fades, man. It really does. And sometimes the women that start off, who are 6s and 7s, as they mature, they get even better looking. They do some stuff. They work out a little bit more. They try a little harder, and they may not be genetically perfect. I'm telling you, every girl, every single one that I know that was totally hot in high school, or even in freshman year of college, or even after they graduated, they're not looking so great right now. Yeah. And some of the girls, especially this one girl, I'm not going to say who, that I went to high school with, that no one even looked at, is now just like this. Obviously, she's an older woman, but an incredibly attractive person. She was, she became a professional. She really worked on herself, her career, her body, her look, and she ended up really kind of being far ahead of the pack.
Yeah, maybe that's what we should, all the young guys should be doing.
I tell them that all the time, but who listens to me?
right.
All right, man.
All right,
Listen,
man.
I appreciate the call. You sound good. I'm sorry you're still struggling, but you're gonna, just keep doing what you're doing. You're gonna get better, and I want you to kind of keep us abreast of your situation. All right.
All right, man.
All
Thanks.
right. You take care. Send me that picture.
I will.
All
Okay.
right. Later. 888-659-3727. Let's see who this is. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this, and where are you calling from? All right.
Hello, everybody.
Hey, you're on the air. Who's this?
This is Dave Artista.
Oh, hey, Dave. How are you? Actually, the last caller just hung up on us.
Shame on them.
What's happening
It
now?
was good to hear. It was good to hear from Tim. Good to hear that call.
You know what I like about Tim's call? He's a really articulate kid. He's obviously well educated. He comes from a good family. He can intellectualize the reality of his situation and the fact that he's one of the guys that probably looks pretty good bald, but he still can't completely get past it, and he still can't completely accept it, and that's okay. That's just the reality of what we're all going through.
Yeah, and he's being realistic about the whole thing.
He is being realistic about the whole thing. And listen, he comes from a family of scientists, of physicians. He's a guy that's not afraid to take finasteride. He's a guy that's had success with finasteride, no adverse side effects.
Right.
But he's still not completely happy with it.
Oh,
And
how old is he?
I
Approximately.
forget. I think he's like 25, maybe, or 26.
Okay.
I forget exactly. I should know that. He's called about
Well,
five
then
times.
that makes sense. Then that makes sense. He's in his mid 20s. I can understand how he could be a lot more affected.
Yeah, but the truth is, I mean, let's face it. I mean, you are in your 50s, and I mean, you spend how many hours a week on a hair loss message forum?
Well, I've been taking your advice and trying to stay away from it.
Well, not you. I don't want you to stay away from it. You're one of the sane guys.
Depending on what the topic is, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you certainly. I've seen you kind of get your hackles up a little bit, but for the most part, I think you're giving really good advice to young guys. You're very enthusiastic.
to.
You're very enthusiastic on the forums. I do think that a lot of people are looking to you now to kind of provide the holy grail of information for everyone who's suffering out there, because you have had you've been privy to some information with Dr. Wesley, and I'll let you talk about that in a second. But I think it's really important that everyone who listens and watches this show, they need to understand this. While I believe that what Dr. Wesley is doing has the potential to be a game changer, while I believe that, while I have discussed with him, just like you have, Artista. Do you want me to call you Dave? What do you want to call me on the? What do you want me to call you on the air?
You can call me Dave.
Yeah.
Dave is fine. Yeah.
That they're going to look into the possibility of trying to work on some sort of donor regeneration. When you read the stuff that's being written online, it's like, oh, yeah, well, Kobren says there's going to be donor regeneration, or Artista says there's going to be donor regeneration. That was never said. That was never, ever, ever said. Yes, it's been discussed, and at some point, I think Dr. Wesley, as he continues to evolve his technique, will experiment to see if maybe, transecting or splitting the grafts at a certain point underneath the skin, and then maybe adding some sort of cellular matrix might help to regenerate those grafts. There's a possibility of that. But at this point, for people to think that this is going to create unlimited donor, or there's going to be 10% regeneration or 20% regeneration, it's pretty premature. And I have to tell you, I really doubt that that's something that he's going to focus on for a very long time.
I was just going to say that. That was not even the main focus of what Dr. Wesley is doing, what he started with. Regardless of regeneration, if he's successful, it will be a game changer when it comes to hair transplantation. It's fantastic.
I think that, well, let's talk about, what can you talk about from what you've seen in the last week?
Well, we had a phone conversation. He called me last week. We talked for about 20 minutes. And he was just updating me. He was completely done with the updating of his instrumentation, his piloscope. And he's all done with that. It's been perfected, if I understood that right. And now he's going through a process of sterilization and cleanliness and kind of thing like that he has to go through. Another course of testings.
You mean
And,
to make sure that he's able to maintain sterilization once the apparatus is put underneath into the body and under the skin? That doesn't seem like it would be that difficult. I mean, they're able to do that with all laparoscopic instruments, so that doesn't seem to be a major hurdle.
Well, he wants to be very thorough.
Sure.
He wants to be very thorough in what he's doing. I can understand that. The next phase test will be roughly around September. I know that in the beginning that we had thought maybe it would be at the end of spring, but no.
Yeah, and this is the thing, and I think this is important for these guys to understand this. They are like hanging on every word. They're hoping that something is going to completely and radically change their lives, when all of this stuff is in its infancy. It's all in the experimental process. It's all in the process. First, obviously the device has to be completely and thoroughly, what's the word I'm looking for? Tested, for lack of a better word, and it has to prove not only safety but efficacy. Now, right now, he's working on a very small number of grafts with each experiment. How is this going to relate into the real world? Will he be able to remove 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 grafts at a time? And how is that going to affect the end result of a hair transplant? Will the first pass be great, and obviously it's going to be scarless, but will there be some microscopic scarring that will eventually hinder further harvesting? It's a possibility, because that can happen with traditional FUE. So why wouldn't happen? Why wouldn't it happen with Dr. Wesley's process? These are all things that people have to understand. So the guys that think they're going to get unlimited donor, the guys that think it's going to be that much of a difference, the only main difference is there's going to be absolutely zero fibrotic tissue on the top of the skin. So your scalp will tan. It'll be literally scarless on the top of your skin, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah, he's using microscopic surgery underneath to be able to remove the follicles that's needed.
Right.
So, it's a lot different than the standard FUE, a whole lot different.
Well, it's basically FUE from underneath the skin. Now, here's the problems that I see, and I spoke to Dr. Wesley about this.
Yes, you did.
And anyone who doesn't really understand hair anatomy and the FUE process will probably think that you can just take the cylinder from underneath the skin and you can go up just like you're going down onto a hair follicle and extract that follicle from underneath. But the truth is, hair follicles splay once they're underneath the skin. The reason why FUE is possible is because the hair shaft at the top, the hair that's actually coming out of the skin, is coming out in a straight fashion. So the circular punch can actually go around that, and then it can kind of be guided around the splayed part of the follicle, and it kind of the punch will kind of like capture without transecting that splayed part inside of that cylinder. When you're going from you're going from the other angle, you actually have to capture and get all of that splayed follicle into the cylinder and kind of go in the other direction. It's a more difficult process. So
I would imagine so.
Will there be greater chance of transection? According to Dr. Wesley and his hands, so far, no. But I see that as a possibility, especially if you're trying to really create, and remove a lot of grafts and create some sort of efficiency and speed. That's going to be a possibility. Has he solved that problem? I don't know yet. But from what I've seen, he's been able to really remove intact, robust grafts from underneath the skin, and that's pretty impressive.
You saw that update, from a couple of months ago, I think?
I did.
Yeah, it was amazing. was amazing.
It is amazing, but I just think people need to see, when I come on the air and I tell people, look, this is a possible game changer. It was an amazing presentation that he showed me. It really was. But I still have to be devil's advocate, and I still have to let people know that these are all the possibilities when it comes to surgery. And if you don't understand the anatomy of hair, people think that it's just as easy to remove hair from the bottom once you're actually, in that cavity as it is from the top. And that's just not the case. It's a completely different animal because the hair is splayed. You're dealing with an African American or someone who from Africa with African descent. Their hair really splays. So not only is FUE from above very difficult, FUE from below could prove to be possibly, not only impractical but impossible. Now, I don't know if Dr. Wesley has solved that problem yet, but that's something we're going to have to find out eventually.
Yeah, our conversation was very general, so to speak. He wanted to let me know when the next phase would come to pass and when I would expect to be called for it.
What did he say? So what did he say about that?
Well,
September.
He said it would be around September. I wouldn't be one of the first ones. But I will be involved, yes.
Now, it's kind of like a double-edged sword with you, because if he F's you up, you're going to go online, you're going to let people know, hey, listen, this didn't work out. And that can completely destroy what he's trying to accomplish. And I know you're going to be honest. So he must be he must be pretty confident.
He is confident. And I have to tell you, I'm very impressed with him. We've had some really good conversations, and I take him for his word. He's very sincere.
Well, with that said, and he's an impressive guy, and I do believe he's being completely truthful. I'm not saying that he's not. I'm just trying to put out all the possible scenarios and issues and obstacles he's going to have to deal with in order to make this work. Another major obstacle is it going to be something that's going to be viable enough for other doctors to really adopt into their practices? If you're not going to be able to remove a minimum of 1,000 grafts in each pass, and if you kind of don't understand or know what's happening as far as the healing process, because it's all happening underneath the skin, are they going to know exactly how long it's going to take before they can go in, for the second pass, or what kind of tests are going to be needed to kind of check for fibrotic tissue or whatever? I mean, there's just so many variables. Because this is brand new. It's never been done before.
Right. Only time will tell.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. You have to be patient. That's what I've been trying to tell people on the forums, just to be patient.
Well, you can't expect people on the forums to be patient. I wish that I could. I really try to get that message out there through this broadcast. But, I kind of wish the guys in the forums would stick to what's happening today, Try to move on with their lives. If they want to get a hair transplant, there's some great work being done. Don't count on these guys who are making all kinds of crazy claims. The truth is, if these claims were real, they would be, quickly adopted by the, by the mainstream. Well, not the mainstream, but by at least the IHRS members, because I would just let them know and say, hey, listen, this is... you got to do this. People want it, and it works, and they would do it. They would make more money, and that's what these guys don't understand. For some reason, a lot of the guys in the forum thinks there's some sort of like old school resistance that people don't want to change. That physicians don't want to either change the infrastructure of their practice to make this happen. That's not true. That's not it's just not true at all. And I just wish that people would understand that. I would say a lot of the guys, especially the guys who are part of what we do, and some other guys who may not be a part of what we do, I mean, they really are trying to do the best work that they can, and they really are trying to produce a really good product, because in the end, it only helps them. It helps their lifestyle. It helps their livelihood. So why wouldn't they want to do that?
Well, I feel, just one more thing about Dr. Wesley and Palafoxus. I feel very positive about it, but I am also objective, as you are. But you have to be more so objective. This is your show.
Well, besides having to be objective, listen. If I was over the moon about it, dude, and if I was 100% convinced that this was going to change everything, I would put it out there. I am convinced that if he is able to reproduce what he showed me on a larger scale without causing transection or causing any damage, then yes, it's going to be a game changer. But right now, everything that we've seen has been done on a very small scale and done on cadavers. You know, well, for the most part. I mean, he actually did some stuff on some grafting, but it's something that people really have to kind of just wait and see. It could take another. I know everyone's excited about it, but it could still take another 3 years. It could take 5 years. We just don't know.
Yeah,
I mean, there could always be a hurdle.
Right. Yeah, we just don't know, as you said. Yeah. Oh, okay.
Anything else?
About something else then.
Yeah.
Yeah. Finasteride. This August will be my year of using finasteride 1 milligram per day, and I've been very impressed. I am getting more density, and I will be taking I'll be posting before and after photos on the forum to show everybody what I've experienced. It is amazing.
Now, so you're going to post photos with Topic, without Topic, because I know you wear some concealer now, right?
Yes, I do use that, but no, without.
So tell me tell me about the progress. You say it's amazing. How much growth have you had?
Yeah, maybe I shouldn't use the word amazing. I'm impressed with it.
Well, if it's amazing to you, I mean, if you're a guy who is, it's your head of hair, you see the difference.
I do see a difference, and my kids saw a difference. It just people that I clue in on what I've been up to, they say, yes, this is something else.
Yeah.
You have more hair, Dad.
Look, the bottom line is it works. It does work, and it is unfortunate that so many people aren't going to benefit from it. But you know what? Who are we? I'm not going to. I can't force anybody. I can't twist anybody's arm to try the drug. I know what it's done for me. You're talking about what it's done for you. There are millions of guys who have had great success with the drug without any adverse side effects. If people don't want to risk that possibility, I understand that, and they're just going to have to move on with their lives.
Now, if I were taking Propecia, the brand name, I would never change, of course. But I started with that generic Dr. Reedy's.
Right.
And it seems to be doing what it's supposed to do.
Yeah, I would not change.
There's no sense in changing.
There's no sense in changing. You're saving the money. You are responding well. You do not want to change the medication if you're doing well on it. You have no side effects. Just stick with what it is. Right.
So I would imagine there are a small percentage of generic finasteride that are okay, like Dr. Reedy.
Well, when we talk about, and you probably heard me and Joe Tillman talking about this, that there are genetics that aren't working for people. It's you don't even know. I mean, it is finasteride. For some people it works for some people it doesn't. There could be just some slight change in the molecular structure of the medication, of the generic, that is just not as effective for some people as it is for others. There are a lot of generics that are great. Most generics, I mean, for the most part, any drug that I need to use, if I need something, antibiotic or whatever it is, I will allow my insurance company to pay for that generic because that's what they're going to pay for. I have no problems taking generics. But when it comes to this, because I started on ProScore, because I started on the name brand, I will not F with it. I will not change it. And there's a tremendous amount of anecdotal evidence. Guys who have contacted me, Joe Tillman, other guys throughout the years who have made that switch because their insurance companies weren't covering it anymore, or that they were paying cash initially and now a generic came out and they could save a lot of money. And these are the guys who lost ground. And it's not something that seems to be atypical. It seems to be fairly typical. So my whole thing is, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. You're doing well on a generic right now. That means it works.
Yeah.
That's it.
Well, I started reconsidering. I was thinking, well, maybe if I was on Propecia, maybe I'd have a better result.
You don't want hair greed. Greed in any aspect of your life is going to, F things up. Do not be greedy. You're doing well. You're not having any adverse side effects. You have more growth. You're able to use Topic more, or whatever concealer you're using, more successfully.
Yeah.
Enjoy that.
Right. I like that brand name, Kabuki.
Yeah,
That seems to be,
I've actually heard a lot of good things about that, and actually, it's supposed to be. The claim is that it might be somehow healthier because it's made from more organic products. So you end up breathing all that stuff in, whether it's keratin fibers or whatever that you're
right.
sprinkling on your head. So if it's a healthier product, and I have to look into that more, so don't take my word for it, but that's what I've heard.
Mhm.
If it actually is a healthier
Okay.
product and it works as well, if not better, then why not use it?
Yeah, but regardless of the brand name, if the finasteride wasn't working for me, if I wasn't getting density, there'd be no sense to using any of that. So
Right.
the point is,
You can't use it if you have no.
finasteride's doing something.
Yeah, if you have no hair in your head, you can't use any of that stuff. Dude, I got so much stuff in my head. It's ridiculous. But I think for the most part, the average observer would never know. Observer would never know. And you really got to look closely. It's because I still, thank God, have a lot of hair back there.
Right.
And I attribute that to my success with finasteride. Period.
Yeah.
So
no, I
go
had
ahead.
bought Topics way before I'd started trying finasteride. I had bought Topics maybe a year before, and then at some point it was a waste of time to use because I was losing more hair. And then later on in life, I started using finasteride, and all of a sudden, when I started using that stuff again, it was worthwhile because there's density.
Yeah. Listen, it makes a significant difference. There's no doubt. There's no doubt in my mind. To me, these products are life changers. They allow me to go out into the world feeling even more comfortable in my own skin. Finasteride helped me a lot, and I'm able to dummy up my hair even without the makeup, at least from the front and from the sides, where it looks like, okay, this is a middle-aged guy who has a pretty good head of hair. But once you add that makeup, man, it's like, I'm bulletproof.
I agree with you.
So why not use it? If somebody says to me, why do you wear makeup on your hair? That's ridiculous. And it's usually a woman. I just stare at them, like, you are an idiot. Look at your feet. You're wearing a mask. You walk out in the street wearing a mask, for crying out loud. I get a little stuff on my head, and you're judging me?
Good point to make.
Yeah, it's a damn good point to make. Ask her to walk out without her face of makeup on. That's not going to happen.
That won't happen. No, not at all.
Women are ridiculous. Push-up bras and fake nails, and they all dye their hair, whether they have gray hair or not. Fake eyelashes, or they grow their eyelashes with Latisse, and everything. They're completely fake. If you strip them down to nothing, take off their fake tans, whatever it is, most women aren't that great looking.
Yeah, and they'd be depressed.
That's a sad truth. I have to say that we are probably the better looking of the species. This is all we got. I got nothing. I can grow my beard. I can take it off. That's all I got. I got nothing else to work with. You can gain a little weight. You can lose a little weight. You can work out. But what you see is what you get. Not with women. You take a woman home sometimes, you don't know what you're going to wake up with.
You're being objective again.
But it's the truth. Even their shoes, their height, they're wearing high heels. They take off their shoes. They're like, they're like LPs. They're little people. You don't know what you don't, and believe me, I like little people. So there's nothing wrong with a hot little person. But the bottom line is, it's all bullshit. What you see in the bars, all these people are just it's just complete phoniness. So when a woman or anybody says to me, "Well, it's really vain that you're painting your head, or that you wear so much hairspray, that you're so concerned about your hair," I just laugh. It's ludicrous.
It is.
So
what can you do?
All right, man.
Well, listen, I'll get going. It was great talking to you.
It's great talking to you too, man. And thank you so much. I'm glad that you talk to these young guys in the forum. Tell them just to relax. Something's going to happen eventually, but it's not going to happen tomorrow.
Yeah, I've been trying to do that.
I know you have, man. I know. Thanks for the call, dude.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Take care, Spence.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Hey, you're on the air. Who's this? I lost the call. 888-659-3727. Let's see who this is. Hey, you're on the air.
Spencer, am I on the air?
You're on the air. Joe, what's happening, man? Holy crap. About to take a break, but I'll take your call.
If you have to take a break, you don't take my call. I mean, what do you think you have to do?
I'm going to take your call. And then, maybe I'll put you on hold and I'll take a break. I mean, I have to take a piss, but I'll be okay.
Well, why don't you have your wife bring you a bottle over so you can urinate in it?
Oh, I got a bottle. I don't need her to bring it.
Oh. First of all, I want to castigate my good friend Dave Artista for not mentioning my name on the air. I was a little hurt by that.
Why didn't he mention your name?
He didn't mention my name.
He did, or he didn't?
He didn't.
Why
a very good friend.
I know, but maybe, he wanted the limelight. Why does he got to mention your name every time he's on the air? What do you got, you're a prima donna?
Well, you know I suffer from various psychiatric issues.
I didn't know you were such a narcissist, though.
Well, you guys had a pressure once. Remember you castigated me on one of the shows about that?
About what? You having narcissistic personality disorder?
Yeah, by this motherfucker sort of OCD, psychosis, all that stuff. Would you let me get to the news very briefly?
Would you like me to play? Yeah. Would you like me to play your opening? Maybe, is that okay? Can I do that?
You're the boss.
Okay.
Not me.
All right.
My name is
Joe from Staten Island.
My name is excuse me. My name is
Would you like me to may I reiterate it?
My name is
Have you heard it? Excuse me.
My name is
Joe from Staten Island.
All right, Joe. Now you can go into your news.
Okay, first of all, I'll give a shout out to my very good friend, Jerry, and I hope all his dreams come true. And he knows exactly what I mean by that. So
Is he actually going to go into the knife? Is this it? Is he doing it?
No. I mean nothing like that. You're putting words in my mouth.
So Jerry is going to become a woman. That's what you're telling us?
No, it's nothing like that. It's something totally different. It's a private thing that he doesn't want me to repeat. I just hope his dreams come true.
Okay.
I don't want more discussing that topic anymore.
No, well, when you and Jerry discuss something, that's your main topic of discussion. From what that and hair loss.
I can't comment on that because you barred me from commenting on that. Am I correct? You and your producers.
I am correct. So tell me what's happening.
All right, first of all, I gave Artista to give the whole thing on Dr. Wesley, so I don't have to get to that news.
Yeah, it's not even news. It's not even. Did you see the article on The Verge? Did you see that website? Did you see the article? They make it look like it's the science fiction. I mean, just even the image that they put on there. I have to tell you, man, it's just the mainstream media, the blogosphere, everything is just so misleading. It really is, and it was actually, I felt it was even a little bit insulting to Dr. Wesley some of the points. But anyway, I don't want to get into it.
Oh, when someone comes out and tells me they could triple or quadruple the donor area, then I'll be extremely impressed. Right now, I can't comment on what I think about Dr. Wesley's work because I'm not familiar with it. I don't understand it, and
well, this is what I need. People need to know. There are some great hair transplants being performed right now. Dr. Wesley happens to be a really good hair transplant surgeon. The work that he's doing is excellent. There are some guys who are performing incredible FUE. I am starting to see more work done by, some robotic work done using smaller punches that looks pretty, goddamn impressive, I have to tell you. So it's evolving. The field is evolving. Things are getting better. More people will be able to have more successful hair transplants on a more consistent basis than ever before. So whether Dr. Wesley's procedure comes to full fruition, which I think it will, and whether it's adopted by other hair transplant surgeons, we'll see about that. But there's great work being done now. So I think there's going to be more than one way to skin a cat, and people have to understand that.
But I have to really at one point, if I may, I think the major objective is the age-old problem still exists, which is you're moving A to B, lack of donor area. The math still doesn't add up from the man who's a no at 5, 6, or 7.
That's the biggest problem. You have a limited amount of hair that could be moved. Deal with it. That's what we have. Everyone who's out there that's waiting for the Holy Grail is going to keep waiting, and all of a sudden they're going to be 50 years old or 60 years old, and it's going to be gone. The guys who are 30 years old right now, 30, I'm not talking about the 22-year-olds, but the 30-year-olds who are still in the message forums, battling it out, talking about this treatment and that treatment and this and that. You know what's happening? Their lives are just passing them by, and that's over. Then they're going to look back and oh, wait a second, I'm 67 years old, and they're going to see news. On the news, they're going to see a cure for baldness. They're not going to see it on Bald Truth Talk first. They're going to see it on the news. That's just the way that it is. I don't understand it. I love the traffic. It's great. It's great that these guys are spending so much time on the forum as far as traffic-wise. But it's ridiculous. It's a waste of time. Sorry. It affects me.
I'm sorry. I'm a prime example of this. I've been waiting for Holy Grail since the age of 12 years old, and I'm now 56. And guess what? I'm still waiting.
Yeah, and you're going to be waiting for a while if you make it. If you make it, that's the way that it is. You know what I find interesting? There are guys out there that think that the scientists who are involved in this are lazy and they don't want to. They're either holding back a cure, they don't care about the cure. Everyone wants a cure for hair loss. There's some really great work being done, but it's like any other type of science. There has to be the right funding. There has to be, the right protocol. There has to be success at every different stage. There has to be, it's an evolution. It takes time. They just figured out a way to grow lungs basically in a test tube. It was not a test tube, but it was in a big cylinder. They grew actual functioning lungs. The lungs were working. It was taking in the gases and expelling the gases. But even though they were able to grow these lungs, scientists still think, the scientists at this university, I forgot the university, and I should know that, say that they're probably not going to be a viable option for transplantation for at least 20 years. They've grown them. They're working. They're currently working. But they don't think it's going to be something that's going to be possible for people who have lung disease to utilize for at least 20 years. That's how science works.
Well, before I give the news, just one more brief piece of news. I know you've already called us. Let me pose this question to you. You initially started in the air in September of 1998. Am I correct?
Yes. I think it was September of 98.
And a Saturday evening, 11:30 p.m. on WABC.
Saturday evening, 11:30. They gave me a half an hour with 8 minutes of commercials. I had 22 minutes to do my broadcast on WABC radio.
Unless you were preempted by baseball or basketball, whatever the sport was.
Right. That's correct.
Okay. Let me pose this question to you. Did you ever, and as you know, I was your first caller.
Yes.
And I need this honest answer from you. You know I'm a thorough interrogator. Did you ever think in a million years you'd be talking to me and your millions of listeners in the year 2014 and we wouldn't have a viable treatment yet for hair loss?
No, dude. The very first show we were talking about Dr. Go. The very first show. Do you remember that?
Yes, I did.
Okay. So, no, I didn't think that I'd be here. I thought it would be over. I really thought 5, 6, 7 years. Cohen Go was talking about his hair multiplication and his hair doubling back then. This guy's presence seems to kind of cycle. Like he'll take out one patent and then he'll go online and a lot of stuff will happen and then people will be pumping that up and then it'll die off for a while because people are claiming they're not getting great results. And then in another few years he comes out again and he's got another patent and then more people are coming out and they're fighting for him. And then the same people come out again on the forum and say, oh, I'm disappointed with the results. And then it just keeps happening in cycles. Very first show, WABC Radio in New York, 1998, September of 1998. You and I didn't even know you, we're talking about Dr. Go. So to answer your question, dude, I thought it was going to be over a long time ago. I thought to myself, I'm going to have 5 good years in this business, so I better make it big fast.
Exactly. That's exactly the point I'm trying to make. I know you have other calls. Let me get briefly. Might get
all right.
Go
ahead.
2 small loose pieces if you don't mind, and you need to relieve it. I know you have to relieve yourself.
Yeah.
If I'm not being graphic. First of all, I have some unfortunate news to the community that Dr. Malik will be appearing in federal court on October 23rd. He's facing all type of different charges involving illegal sale of non-approved FDA drugs. He's facing 5 years imprisonment and/or $250,000 fine.
Yeah.
And in my expert opinion, I think this is very unfair. There's people also selling stuff online. Nothing's happening to them. And there's hair transplant doctors who are destroying people's lives who should receive the death penalty, in my opinion. Why are they picking on this man? Can you briefly comment on that?
Well, I think it's interesting that you bring that up. And I have to say, it's really basically, they're trying to set an example. Someone had a hard-on for this guy. Someone reported this guy. It could have been a competitor. It could have been, whatever. Someone, because he was doing extremely well. And the powers that be decided, for whatever reason, that, you know what? This is something interesting. We're going to use our resources and focus on this. And we are going to make an example of this guy. The truth is, even by making an example of this guy, it's not going to stop what's happening online. There are people who are selling, crazy gray market stuff online. At the very least, he was compounding and producing legitimate products that were really helping people, in my view. So I hope that the courts take this into account. But the truth is, if they find that he was breaking the law is the law. And, he may end up having to do time, or at the very least pay that fine. And I'm sure he's pretty unhappy. He's probably not having a great last couple of years. He must be very stressed about it. I happen to think he's a very lovely man, and I think that he's helped a lot of people. But the law is the law.
Well, people like Dr. Klein, they're now, I understand, they're now in investigation too. So this is going to be very widespread. Eventually all this stuff is going to be off the internet.
Well, these guys are buying RU58841, and they're mixing it, and they're basically producing themselves. All these things, all these gray market things. All these guys are eventually going to be hit. It's just the way that it is. You can only kind of skirt the law for so long. You can only hide in plain sight for so long before you get caught. That's the way. And yeah, sure, there's plenty of guys out there that are doing a lot more damage. There are hair transplant guys who have been in business for 25 years who have destroyed so many lives. It's just, these guys should be behind bars, in my opinion, like you said. There are guys now who are retired, and you mention him all the time, living the life of Riley, multimillionaire, and leaving behind so many walking wounded guys like you who are stuck under bandages. How these people can live with themselves, it's so beyond me. I can't even believe it. And then there's guys who've done that in the past, and they've reinvented themselves and kind of make believe, well, this never really happened. And their excuse was, well, that was the technology at the time. That's bullshit. There was no technology at the time. You were removing these huge clumps of hair. Unless you were blonde, you could see it looked like shit. Why would you keep doing it if it wasn't for that paycheck? If you didn't realize that, you know what? Guys are desperate. Guys are stupid when it comes to their hair loss. Even if you're just providing cornrows, in some guys' mind, they're growing hair, so they feel like they're doing better and they'll come back for more. I never forget this one guy who said to me that even when he first started doing them and he thought it looked bad, patients were coming back for more because they were just happy they had more hair. And in his mind, he was doing what he claimed to do. He was moving hair from one area to another area, And in that balding area, hair was growing where at one point there was no hair. So he kind of rationalized it like that. This particular guy became one of the most famous hair transplant surgeons in the world and is actually one of the richest. So what are you going to do, Joe? I agree with you.
Well, evil lives, like Dr. Norman Otrack, who, in my opinion, is a monster. He recently celebrated his 92nd birthday. I mean, that's pretty ironic for all the lives he's destroyed.
Now, think about that. This guy lived, he's 92 years old. He probably celebrated in the Hamptons. You know?
He's a multi-millionaire, and he's personally destroyed thousands of lives, including my own.
Well, you know, I know according to you he's destroyed your life, and I know there have been other people who have contacted us over the years who claimed that he has harmed them as well. I'm not saying that he has or he hasn't. I mean, I have seen your head, so I definitely have seen at least pictures of it from years ago, and I've definitely seen the damage that he's done to you. But, you know, I just kind of feel like I dodged a bullet. When I was sitting in his chair at the tender age in my 20s, and he told me to try a few hair transplants, to me that was a red flag. I kind of knew, you know what, there's something really fucked up here. This doesn't make sense. I barely had any recession in my hairline yet. My hair is much more receded now. And I barely had a little thinning on top. I was just losing hair a lot. I was freaking out. And when he said, if you were my own son, I would advise you to give it a shot, try a few. And when I asked him, well, how do you try a few? He goes, well, we'll put some in the corners, and you'll see how they grow, and you're going to like them, and then you can come back for more. That would have set me up for a lifetime of misery. And he was willing to do that. He was willing to take my money, a kid's money. And forget about the money, but the emotional roller coaster he would have put me on. And he was willing to do that to me. And I was such a young, you know, I mean, when I was 22 years old, I looked like a kid. I looked like I was like 15 years old. Didn't have facial hair. I mean, I looked really young. And he looked at me in the eye, and he was willing to do that to me. So I don't know if he really believed that he was going to be able to help me, or if he just didn't give a shit.
Well, I felt that the person who invented hair transplantation at the time would be the best person to go to. Obviously, I was wrong. But I'm fortunate, and one more quick comment, I'm fortunate in a way that I wasn't destroyed as badly as some people out there. I mean,
when I saw your pictures with your lovely wife, Phyllis, I mean, even though I can tell I could tell as an expert that, you know, you had something done. It didn't look that bad when you were younger because you had a lot of hair to intermingle with the transplant.
Right, and pictures are very deceiving, as you know.
Pictures are deceiving, and that's important for all you guys in the message forums. Even the best pictures can be, you know, it's not like real life. You need to see patients in person. I say that all the time, and I don't know what it is. You know, I was talking to this Romanian patient, and he really lucked out. He happened to find Dr. Hakan Dagane. He decided to fly to Turkey, which is like, it's wild that, you know, he goes from one interesting culture to a completely different culture to have surgery. And he told me that, you know, it was pretty frightening when he got off that plane. It was he's a young guy. He's 25. He was 24 at the time. He ended up having a great result that he considers to be a life-changing result. But he did all of his research online, all of it. And that's what most guys are doing now. And I understand that we provide these online resources for people to do their research. But for Christ's sake, this is cosmetic surgery. Don't you want to meet at least one patient? Don't you want to speak to somebody who might have had the work done, who has similar hair characteristics as you? I guarantee you, if I was going to get, you know, whatever, my eyes done, which I'm probably going to need any day now, I'm going to meet plenty of patients who had the same work done, performed by the surgeon, with the similar skin characteristics as me, maybe even similar eye shape. You know, otherwise I won't have it done. But that's not how guys are. They do their research. They think they're doing their due diligence because it's all online, and they go and they have a surgery. A lot of guys do very well that way, but for me, that's craziness. And, you know, this is coming from a guy who has resources and has an organization that doctors pay to be a part of. I'm not going to sell surgery that way. I think people need to do more research. At least they could be better prepared if, for some reason, there's a poor outcome. But we both know how things are, man. Like you were just desperate. You walked into the guy's office. He's the guy that wrote the book, and you sat in his chair and you let him do his thing.
You figure the guy who invented hair transplants should be the right guy to go to, right?
That's what you think, and that was a very logical and lucid thought process.
Assumption.
Yeah,
I mean the man who invented it, Well, just let me give. I know you have other calls. One more quick piece of news, and I think about 2 minutes. And you have to go on break.
I have to take a piss, dude.
I very quickly interviewed Chuck from what's his name, Dr. Cole's office. I didn't get to tell him who I was though. He just said two quick things. I go on and on, but I'll just make it one.
No, it's okay. How'd you interview him?
I asked him on the phone, and I told him who I was because I thought he might not be honest with me if I told him who I was.
Oh, you spoke to him. Okay, so that's okay. Chuck is the guy that's 35 years after. Yeah.
Right. He told me that Dr. Cole is now working on something called AmnioFix. He's doing about 10 test patients. You can call him on this if you want. And he stated it's far superior to PRP and ACell. Donor regeneration.
I'm going to say this. This is what I'm going to say. I'm going to let you finish your thought, and I'm going to tell you what I think.
Want to finish my thought?
Yeah, finish your thought, and then I'll tell you what I think.
And he also said that they're doing beard grafts. They did 5,000 beard grafts on one guy, and he had a fantastic result. Imagine 5,000 beard grafts. The average donor area doesn't even have 5,000 hairs. I mean, to be lucky to have 5,000 grafts.
This is what you have to understand.
This guy's beard.
This is what you have to understand. 35 years after, works for John Cole. John Cole is an IHS-accepted member, a guy that has been doing some of the best hair transplants in the world for many years. However, with that said, and John knows how I feel about this, I am not a fan of pandering to the forums. I'm not a fan of anyone taking advantage of a particular topic or line of thinking that's happening on a message forum, basically conversations that are happening between guys who don't know shit really about what's happening behind the scenes and who are very vulnerable. I think Chuck is a nice guy. I like the fact that he participates on the forum. I think that in most cases he's very helpful. I do find him to be possibly a little naive about some of the science as far as ACell is concerned, PRP, and all the stuff that John Cole is doing. I think John explains it to the best of his ability, and then Chuck comes online and then kind of tries to regurgitate what was said to him. You got to take it with a grain of salt. I think John is trying to do his best to really up the game in surgical hair restoration, and he's made a lot of changes. He really has. He is, in the long run, even though there have been some hiccups, he's benefited the industry tremendously, and he has added a lot to surgical hair restoration. I don't know what can possibly be better than ACell, because at this point, I don't think ACell is all that it's cracked up to be. I think for some patients, kind of bathing the grafts in ACell, there has been some anecdotal evidence that has shown that the grafts may grow a little faster. It may be a little bit more robust. In some cases, there's less telogen effluvium or shedding of the grafts after they're initially implanted if they're bathed in ACell. I've heard about that. I've seen that. I've spoken to some patients who have experienced that. That's all good stuff. As far as donor regeneration, if the hair is transected in the back, I have seen ACell help to regenerate some of that hair, but I don't even know if it's the ACell or if that would have happened on its own. There's only a couple of guys in this country who I believe are really doing great PRP. I have to say that all PRP is not created equal, and there's a guy who I consider to be the father of PRP and hair restoration. His name is Dr. Joseph Greco. The guy's not even a physician; he's a PhD, and I do not recommend him or make a dime from this guy. And I know people who have had great results. I actually have a family member who travels down from New York to to Sarasota every few months to have PRP with Dr. Greco, and I've seen the results. And I got to tell you, this is a woman, and they are impressive. So what does that say? I haven't seen the same results from other doctors. So, you got to take everything with a grain of salt. Chuck is telling you what he's being told. Do I believe that John Cole believes in what he's saying? Yeah. And he's probably seen some of these results. But I do think that it's kind of premature to present that to the public. And I personally don't think that some of these agents, I think they could be provided, but they should be provided as part of the cost of the surgery, whether it's ACell or PRP. I think if someone is signing up for a $10,000 hair transplant, you can throw in the PRP for good measure to see if it helps the situation. That's my thought process. Is that honest?
I totally agree with that.
It's probably too honest because I can guarantee I'm going to get a couple of emails tonight. Like, how dare you? Well, what am I going to do? This is what I do. Yes, I recommend these guys. All these guys are offering PRP. But I'm recommending them for their skill as a hair transplant surgeons and for the team that they have and for the fact that they're providing, the most consistent, results when it comes to surgical hair restoration. But am I, a huge proponent of low-level laser therapy for hair loss? At this point, no. I'm seeing some more evidence that's working, but I'd say at least half the guys that I recommend are, promoting that. And there's going to be plenty of guys promoting other stuff that I'm not necessarily going to agree with or disagree with. All I can say is the guys that are part of what we do, they're doing good hair transplants. That's it. You're on your own with the rest.
Well, all right. I have to go. One final thing is in a few months we're going to know if Allergan's new product works or doesn't. Phase 2B results will be announced in 3 to 4 months.
Yeah,
and
and that's exciting stuff. That's exciting stuff.
Well,
This is something that's tangible.
No
This is
idea.
something that's real, though. It's tangible.
Well,
It could be an alternative and really be helpful for guys who are afraid to use finasteride or guys who have kind of plateaued. I mean, and for women, I mean, it could be an incredible opportunity for women to really have something in their toolbox to help them with hair loss. That would be wonderful.
Well, on the flip side, it could turn out to be another dud. Nothing surprises me anymore.
Well, this is what we do know. We do know that it works for sure in lengthening the growth phase for eyelashes and for eyebrows. The results are stunning when it comes to eyelashes and eyebrows. So we know that it grows hair or that it keeps the hair cycle longer and it will thicken the diameter of the hair shaft. It also works. Some guys are using it on some of the thinning beard areas, and they're noticing some pretty significant results. So we know that it helps with hair loss. But, we're talking about much, shorter hair, shorter terminal hair that has a much shorter lifespan, like eyelashes and eyebrows. So, it doesn't necessarily equate to scalp hair, but at the very least, we know it works for some hair. So I think that's a positive.
Remember one thing very quickly, I'm going to cut you off. They're using a product now that's 1,000 times the strength of the previous product. So I want all your millions of listeners just to keep that in mind.
Yeah, and you know what? I think it's promising. I really do. Am I going to tell you guys to hold your breath? No, but I kind of think that it's going to be something that's going to have a positive. We're going to see some positive results. Let's put it this way: even if it works, 20% better than minoxidil, if you could add that to finasteride, a guy can keep his hair for another 2 decades. That would be incredible.
Right. Well, I just want to welcome you back from vacation. We all missed you on the. I'm gonna have to let you go because I don't want you to damage your studio, if you know what I mean, or damage your clothing.
No, I'm fine, but I am going to take a break. Joe, man, thank you so much for the call. Always great hearing from you.
Thank you for the time.
You sound very well. Take care. 888-659-3727 is the toll-free number. I got to go. I got to actually take a piss. I don't know if that has to be edited out, but I got to go to the bathroom, so I'm going to take a break. 888-659-3727. I do have an interesting story to talk about with you guys. about a company who wanted to sponsor The Bald Truth, and kind of my explanation as to why I prefer not to do like live reads and have sponsors on the program or direct sponsors on the program. But it's amazing the way people think. It's mind blowing sometimes. 888-659-3727. I'm Spencer Kobren. You are watching and listening to The Bald Truth. Stay with us.
The man who's helping to make hair loss history.
They wish to cure us, but I say we are the cure.
It's Spencer David Kobren.
Hey guys, welcome back. 888-659-3727, toll-free number. Give us a call here if you have any questions, concerns about your hair loss. If you're just tuning in, it's The Bald Show, The Bald Truth. I'm Spencer Kobren, and we're here again, almost 17 years later. And I think it's interesting that, Joe brought up that point. Would I ever think that after, starting my show in September of 1998 on WABC Radio in New York, would I think that I'd still be here? I really believed it was all over. I thought we had 5 years left. I got to make it big, and I got to get out and do something else. That's not the case. And I actually wished, I was hoping that was the case. I was telling people that we have this guy who's doing this, and this guy's doing this, and, hair multiplication, yada, yada, yada. But it is what it is. So 17 years later, after doing this program for a very long time, and when I was in the radio, of course, the thing about being on radio is your job is really to sell advertising. And I had to limit my advertising because of being a consumer advocate, and I really didn't want to attach myself to products and services that I didn't believe in. So it made my job that much more difficult. Probably one of the reasons why I never got a weekday broadcast. But that's besides the point. So after all these years, people in the industry kind of know who I am and what I do and what I stand for, and that, it's unlikely that I'm going to get involved with a product or a service that could potentially harm people or something that I just don't believe in. So to make a long story short, apparently this big company, and I'm not going to name any names, has a new marketing director and a new sales director. And they contacted me this week. And mind you, this is a company who I would never work with. They contacted me. And, what's surprising is that they didn't know this, but, I appreciate the offer. And they said that we have set aside $250,000 in our budget for next year for direct-to-consumer marketing. And we'd really like to advertise on your broadcast and give that to you. And I'm like, well, exactly what are you looking for? And I didn't want to kind of lean in on them and explain the situation initially, because obviously they had no clue kind of what we stood for, even though they were into the show. I said, what do you want, personal endorsements? Do you have to do anything for your websites, whatever it is? He said, no, we just want to run straight ads on your internet broadcast. And I said, okay, so do you want it to be connected to Stitcher Radio, to Guys from Queens, to just wherever you want it. Just we want it on your show. $250,000. They put it in their budget. It's already in the budget. Basically, it's like, here, we'll give you, you're going to get your check quarterly. Here's the contract, sign on the dotted line. We want to place these ads. Now, they're video ads with very strong audio content, meaning that they can be something that could sound like a radio ad as well. So it could be utilized for the video broadcast and for the audio broadcast, which is great. There's part of me that thought about it because honestly, you guys wouldn't. I mean, you guys wouldn't know shit because this particular company is not quite, and they've come a long way. Not quite as bad as some other companies out there. And all I had to say was, you know what? I'm kind of coming around. Kind of coming around. And I could have taken that $250,000 and just put it in my pocket. I wouldn't have. I don't even have to do a read. All I had to do was air the commercials. I'd probably have to cut a check for Andrew Zarian too, which I'm sure he'd be glad to take. But I chose not to do it. And this isn't because I'm a great guy, or maybe it is to some degree. But it's because I know that this broadcast is going to be around for a while. I don't think there's going to be a cure for hair loss anytime soon. And I want it to continue to grow and thrive the way that it has been, in the same vein that it has been. I chose not to take the money. And what I found interesting is I kind of explained the situation. I was very nice about it. And I'm like, so I guess you never really listened to my show back in, the 8 years ago or 10 years ago, but I really wasn't too kind to, your company and what you guys, do. And this is like some young, late 20-something person who is just trying to find ways to market their brand. And they thought that this was the best way. And it was a big surprise to them. And I thought that's an interesting story for the old timers. And I think it's interesting for the new guys out there as well. There's a reason we don't have commercials on this broadcast. And it's not because we can't get commercials. I can sell, without blinking an eye, at least 20 minutes of every hour on this broadcast. And I can sell it at a premium. And I choose not to, A, because I hate cluttering the show up with commercials. And B, I'm very limited as to who I can connect myself to. So what is it going to be? It's going to be an entire show about, different hair transplant doctors across the country, doing ads. I just can't do it. So anyway, I thought that was interesting, and I think it's interesting. If I was actually tell you the name of the company, you guys would be like, holy shit. But I'm not going to do that. But I thought it was an interesting story because there are guys out there who are involved in internet broadcasting who ask me, like, why don't you run commercials on your show? How do you make a living? How does that work? I try to explain it to them, especially some of the bigger internet broadcasters who, they may be making a few $1,000,000 from their podcasts and from their broadcasts. I'm like, look, that's just not the way that I run things. My whole thing is to kind of just create this platform, take phone calls, and continue to do what I do and guide people in a safe direction. And the money comes. I don't have to constantly be on the phone, selling things. Not for me. 888-659-3727 is the toll-free number. I actually have an engagement, a dinner engagement to go to. So I'm thinking about basically cutting it short tonight. I don't know if you guys mind. If you do, you can let me know in the chat. But if you don't, just say F off and I'm going to get out of here. But I appreciate all the calls that we received tonight. Joe sounds incredibly lucid. I'm really glad that he seems like he's on the wagon, and I hope that he is. And it seems like maybe that near-death experience really helped him out in his life. It's always nice to hear from Dave Artista. Dave, listen, don't give these guys false hope. That's the thing. I know you don't mean it, and I know you try to kind of temper what you write online, but I do think that in some cases, the guys are getting a little false hope. Oh, Jesus, I got a phone call. I don't know if I want to take this. Maybe I will. But, again, I know you're very involved, Dave, and you're involved with Dr. Wesley. It's great that you're having these conversations. But I really want you guys to just kind of take it easy. This is going to happen, good, bad, or indifferent. His procedure is going to be out there. He's going to be offering it. I don't know if it'll ever be adopted by other people. If it's really good, it will be. But it's not going to save your lives. It's not going to save your lives. It just may be a better mousetrap. And I think that's going to be great. All right, I'll take this call real quick. And let's see who this is, and then I'm going to get out of here. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this?
Hey man, it's Tim. I just wanted to let you know I sent the photographs. So.
Oh, you did. All right. Well, it's going to be.
Yeah,
it has to be forwarded to me, so I don't get it. Yeah,
it does?
That mail doesn't come to me, so
Okay.
it'll be
All
forwarded to me. What did you write on the for the title?
1 second. I know you got to get going.
It's all right.
Let's see. What's the? I forwarded it to you, so I forwarded it to myself. I think it says. There's just like a little message that comes with it, and the subject is TBT. That's it.
All right. I will send an email to my staff member. I hate even saying that. It sounds so obnoxious, but my staff member who handles the email, and I will make sure that she sends it over to me.
Oh, she's gonna love the photographs.
Oh, dude, you have no idea what this person sees. No idea. You can't even imagine the level of craziness that comes through our mail, our inbox, and the crazy pictures we get. So
okay, that makes me feel a lot better.
Yeah, so I'm sure what you sent is just fine. She's probably going to be like, "Wow, this is a normal dude." All right, man. All right, man. Looking forward to seeing that. Thanks for the call, and I will. I think I'm going to be live next week, so if you want to call in, we'll discuss it.
All right,
man. Take care. Have a good week. All right, guys, I'm going to get out of here. I want to thank you all for hanging out. It was a great program. I want to thank everyone who called, obviously Tim and our Artista and Joe from Staten Island, and I don't know if I'm missing anybody else. And I'm sorry for the guys whose calls I didn't take and ran to the bathroom and you guys dropped off. But you know what? It's better for me because I actually have a 7:15 dinner appointment, and I need more than 15 minutes to get there. So I'm going to get off the air. The websites... thebaldtruth.com, of course, to check out archive broadcasts of this show. If you've missed any shows, that's the place to go. You could also check them out on guysfromqueens.com. And I know that Guys from Queens puts them up on YouTube. You know, we probably prefer for you to go to our sites to check them out. And you could also go to our message forum, which is baldtruthtalk.com, and interact with other hair loss sufferers who are dealing with much of what you guys are dealing with. I mean, everyone's different. There's a lot of craziness on the forums. We try to kind of keep it to a relatively minor level as far as, you know, the insanity that ensues online. We have some great moderators. And, you know, I just tell people, take what you read on the internet, especially in message forums, even our message forum, with a grain of salt. We try to keep it as a safe place as possible. Jesus, I can't speak. As safe as possible for you guys, but you still have to do your own due diligence. You still have to really do your research, especially if you're making a decision to have surgery. It is a big step and doesn't always solve your problems. So, you know, before you go under the knife, man, really check things out. And that's baldtruthtalk.com. And, of course, the American Hair Loss Association, americanhairloss.org. Until next time, be strong, God bless, and thank you so much for listening. Take care.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry for any inconvenience you may have been put to prior to the programme, and I'm glad you enjoyed it. And if you could now leave by the exits at the rear, that'd be splendid. Thank you. Good night.